Yeah.
Yeah, one or two.
My daughter's recipe.
So nice. Homemade is the best.
Susan, I love your wallpaper, your background.
Oh, well, it's
gourmet.
phony stuff, you know.
Right. No, yeah, but still, that's very cool. I didn't think you wallpapered your actual wall with menorahs. But hey, you know,
All right,
could be
so
your
we're
Hanukkah room.
starting.
Who knows?
All
We're
right,
starting to
Connie-
stream.
Connie
So
started
Shiprock, you should probably get started.
Good morning, everyone.
Good
So this
morning.
is our
You-
last class in this series of Finding Joy Together. And by now it's apparent that all of us are incredibly joyful. I do have to say that last night I experienced something incredible. We have two students, one who just completed his PhD and another graduating who got married last night. And it was an incredible wedding, thank God, one of the smallest weddings, but absolutely incredible. And I have to say that if going through this entire class with all of you and learning all these ideas with you, I saw them actually put a lot of these ideas into practice. You know, when all of us, we have all the struggles that we have, especially now during COVID and seeing negative things, and then having people in your life who are making it even more difficult and pointing out all the rest of the negative that you didn't have to know about. And this couple, literally, they were just committed to getting married to each other. And no matter what happened, and no matter, you know, their wedding guest list went down from 300 to 27. And even as that happened, and even as they had to cancel and, you know, lower everything, they just stayed happy. Not that they were just like, okay, whatever, we're just going to do it. They literally stayed happy with smiles on their faces the entire time. And I was just, you know, we were going through this whole process with them, just so amazed. So there are situations and there are people out there who really, really can not just, okay, I'm going to make the best of this bad situation, but actually see the beauty and the positive and the joy and the happiness. And I am so grateful that I was able to actually see that for real. And I know that all of us have all sorts of, you know, different struggles and different bad days. And, you know, we all have, as we say in Yiddish, that every person has their own pekala, your own package that you have in this world. Everybody has their own life package. And it's our choice what we're going to decide to do with that. So to start off, here is a super cute Kabbalah tune. And we'll watch it, and then you guys will tell me what you think about it. So here goes. Hold a second, that was a mistake. 1 second, I cast it by mistake. Okay, let me start that again, sorry.
I'm focusing, but he's not coming. Fievel? Fievel, looks like you're having a bad day. Well, that's great news. Sure. Here, watch. Imagine you are a seed hanging high on a grand oak tree. Then one day, the wind blows strong. You go whirling and twirling until you hit the dirt, get buried there, and biodegrade. You think, once I was part of a grand oak tree, and now I'm just rotten cellulose. Just then, something new begins to sprout out of you, breaking through the earth and climbing higher and higher, until, eventually, you become a grand oak yourself. That's how things grow in this world, Fievel. For something to become a bigger something, it has to be a nothing in between.
I have to stop it. Okay. Does anyone have anything they would want to say about that?
Oh, yeah.
Go for it.
I've been Fievel. Yeah, that's life. Everything kind of goes down and then it even gets higher. I've in my life, I thought it's like you want it to have outcome A, but it has outcome B. And so you say, oh, I really wanted A. And you wait a while and the outcome B is even better than what you imagined outcome A to be. That's happened to me a lot. I don't know whether that makes sense to anybody.
You actually got to see the great oak tree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you had the patience to wait and see that.
Well, I think the patience was sort of forced on me, but but it's easier now having done it because I'm a slow learner, so I had to do that a couple of times. It's easier now to say, okay, this didn't turn out, but it really did turn out, and just to sit back. But the first couple of times, one of the big things that really stands out for me, I mean, it's a long time ago, I wanted to go to graduate school. And I thought, okay, I'll go to NYU. Excuse me, and I get to live with my grandma, which was always a big plus. And I got rejected from NYU. And I thought, oh, this is the worst day of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 days later, an acceptance to the University of Pennsylvania with a huge fellowship came through. I didn't know anybody in Philadelphia, but I met my husband.
Wow, you see? That's amazing. That is amazing.
And, you know, and he was getting a PhD and I was getting a graduate degree, and we met.
Love it.
So I didn't get to live with my grandma, but I got a mate for life. So that's really a big example, but I was so crestfallen for 2 days. My mother kept on saying, get out of bed. And I said, I can't. And then she said, you have a plump envelope from Pennsylvania. And I said, what? I said, open it. I can't read another direct rejection. And so my mother's standing over my bed and she's holding the paper and she goes, Dear Miss Schreiber, that was my name at the time, we are pleased to inform you I had the miraculous cure. I mean,
That's amazing. Wonderful. So I'm going to tell you a very cool phrase in Torah that sums this up. And I think that this phrase is going to be, I mean, this is our last class, but this is going to be the one phrase that carries us for sure through COVID and hopefully through all the other downs in life. And I really feel that this phrase is revolutionary. I actually want to share a little story about 10 years ago when we first moved here to Open Chabad. So one of the girls that we met was going through a real, struggle. And everybody has their own struggles based on what stage in life they are. I really firmly believe, you know how some people like to say, oh, you think that's difficult? Just wait till you da-da-da-da-da. You're a child and you think you're having a hard day in school. And then, your teenage sibling comes and says, oh, wait till you're a teenager. You have your first kid. And then people come and say, oh, just wait till you have more kids. Or you have more kids. And then they come and say, oh, just wait till they're teenagers. Oh, you have teenagers. Just wait till. everybody likes to do that to each other. And I firmly believe that every stage that you are at in life, and I cannot speak because I haven't done all the stages in life, so I really don't know. But I really firmly believe that every stage that you are at in life has its incredible beauty and also has its incredible struggle. And it's never right to tell a person that what they're going through is nothing compared to what they could be going through, what they will be going through. Never. Every stage is challenging. So this girl is a college girl and she has her personal struggle. And for her, that struggle is real and challenging and very difficult. And I told her this line. I said to her that the Torah teaches us, Yerida litzorech aliyah. Yeah, you got it. That every descent is for the purpose of an ascent. Yerida litzorech aliyah. Every descent is for the purpose of an ascent. I said to her, you know, like when you're doing gymnastics or just simply when you're running, if you want to jump or you want to sprint, if you want to jump, try just standing up straight with your arms at your side and your feet straight and jumping. How high are you going to jump? You're not going to jump. You're barely going to move. If you bend your knees and then you jump, boy, are you going to go high. The same thing with sprinting. You want to run far? First, you got to move back. You got to put your leg behind you. You got to move yourself backwards. Then you sprint forwards. Why am I going backwards? I'm trying to go forwards. No. You got to pull back in order to go forward. You take a rubber band, right? You want it to go far. If you want that rubber band to go far ahead, first you have to pull it all the way back. The further you pull it back, the further it's going to go ahead. Yerida litzorech aliyah. The descent is always for the purpose of the ascent. And I told her this, and I said, listen, I know you're going through something really difficult, and to you, it looks terrible. It looks like a complete descent. You know, it looks like the total opposite direction of anywhere you wanted to go. You have to know that Judaism teaches that every time you go down, it's for the purpose of being able to go up again. She loved it. And the next day I'm on Facebook and I see that she posted it. Shifra told me a revolutionary idea and everybody's liking her idea. And I think to myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this idea was so normal to me. I grew up hearing this concept. You know, every time you go down, it's in order to go higher. And that's when I realized, I think, you know, when you grow up, as my husband likes to say, he was born with a beard. He wasn't, but he was born, you know, religious. So when you grow up hearing all of these concepts and ideas and it's part of your mother's milk, you don't appreciate it so much. And then suddenly you share an idea with someone else and they're like, wow, that's amazing. I'm like, oh my goodness, it really is amazing. And that's when I started realizing what this really meant. Because until you can actually experience it in your own life, whatever, it's just something that you say, but you don't actually mean. So we say in Mishnah and Pirkei Avot, we say, Mikol melamdai iskalti, that from all of my students, I gained wisdom, I gained knowledge. And it's definitely true. You never learn until you're able to teach. Yeah, just swallowing information. You don't really know what you're talking about. When you have to teach it to somebody else and they challenge you and they show you what you're really trying to say, that's when you learn it. My mother used to always say, don't learn, and she still does, don't learn from your own mistakes. You know, if somebody else made that mistake already, learn from their mistake. You'll have plenty of opportunities to make your own mistakes in life that you can learn from. If somebody else already made a mistake, learn from that mistake, and then you can grow. And then you'll do your own mistakes themselves. But I know that the only times that I've really, really learned are when I really experienced it. So, Susan, you're sharing your personal experience that you really experienced falling off the tree and rotting and degrading and then growing into an oak tree. Yerida l'tzarech aliyah, the descent for the cause of ascent is a fundamental building block for the Jewish psyche. Because anybody who knows the Jewish history has known that we are like the moon. Just like the moon is constantly waxing and waning, it's got a cycle, right? It's teeny tiny, then it grows until it's at its full height and beauty and shining and full. And then it starts to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until it's teeny tiny again. You can't even see anything of it in the sky. And then it starts to grow again and again and again. That same cycle, and this is why the Jewish people are compared to the moon, that is the cycle of the Jewish people. When we're at our smallest point, that's when we're about to start getting big again. And the purpose of becoming smaller is in order to become greater again. The purpose of the fall is in order to climb higher. So every single one of us has to kind of swallow this idea on our own. We each need to take the time to experience it. And we're not really going to appreciate this until we can actually look back on our own lives and find a time that we fell and then grew from that. So at the end of this class, I think it will be very beneficial for each other if we can each put into, 1 minute an experience that we each had with this idea. So I'll teach you more about the concept and how you can practically apply it. And then if each of you would share a time in your own life that you experienced, particularly now during COVID, because we can each learn from each other, and you experienced falling in order to grow afterwards, I think it will help each of us grow. So this whole course, Finding Joy, we started with the journey of a soul. And we spoke about, yes, question before we go. You're muted.
I want only to add something very small. I just heard the lecture of Rabbi Yonatan Zaks, Zichrono Livracha.
Yes.
And he said that in the modern way of life, we have to reframe our experience in a different way, so we will see it in a positive. Like in Tanya, it's the Moach HaShalit, and we will see it if we're seeing it in a positive way. Mm-hmm. So we are able to grow up and to do a more effective way. So I wanted only to share with you. It was amazing. It was only a point. Thank you.
What was this class that you were listening to?
I was watching about the Vaigash. I heard a lecture. I opened YouTube and I heard a lecture.
So nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
that's nice. Very powerful person. And Jonathan Sacks is a person who 3 times in his life struggled with cancer. And he never told anybody about it. And this last time it took him, and he said, why do I never tell people? Why do I never say anything? Because I truly believe that, God wants me here in this world. I'll continue to be here in this world. And if I'm done whatever I need to do, then I'm done. I did everything I needed to do. To hear that from such a person is literally mind-blowing.
And also Viktor Frankl.
Oh, yes.
Struggled. So he said, don't look at yourself, look on others and see how bad they are. So you can get powerful and to grow up. Yeah. Sorry.
To see from other people's negative, how grateful you can be for the good things that you have. Yeah. Definitely. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we started our journey. First of all, reframing and focusing on the little details of the beautiful things in our life. And then we spoke about the journey of the soul. And we learned about how our soul has a cycle that it goes through. And the great power that each of us has within our own souls. And we learned about those deep secret powers that each of us holds within ourselves. And then we were able to say, now, where are we going? What are we working towards? What's the goal? And we learned about the goal of a world that we're working to, a world that is truly filled with goodness and beauty. And that was the world of Mashiach. And then we moved on to focusing on a purpose-filled life rather than just a meaningful life. And we found that true joy can be found not when we're focusing on what feels good for us, but when we're focusing on what we are needed for and value and put into this world to actually accomplish.
Can you repeat that, please, just one more time? I'm trying to write down everything you said.
So all I'm doing right now is going through the previous classes that we already had.
I know, but you said something in a way that not just working on a meaningful life, but working on a purposeful
life. Exactly. So focusing on what we are actually needed for here in this world. And that is
it,
yeah.
So when you say purposeful versus meaningful, you like a conscientious, like when you say like be conscientious of what you're doing. Is that
not really? But that was that entire class. And I mean, I'll sum it up quickly, but it's not about what feels good for you. It's about what you were actually put here into this world to do.
Right. But I guess I'm saying, but be conscientious and aware about what your purpose is. Like when you say purposeful versus meaningful.
Focusing on what you are needed for here in this world rather than what you feel.
Right. Okay.
You would like to do. Definitely. Seeing the greater picture.
Okay.
And then we moved on last week to really seeing that this world is a beautiful garden and seeing the actual beauty in anything that looks negative here in this world. Because if we can envision a real garden, then we can actually get there. So by us working on our purpose, we're driving the world together with us to that place that we're trying to go. So all of this now comes together in a whole package of each of us has our inner powers, and our inner powers are driving us towards a goal, the goal of the time of Mashiach. And in order to get there, we need to focus on our purpose. This is our purpose. This is what we're trying to accomplish in this world. But in order to get there, we need to be able to unearth the true potential of what this world can be. And doing that means seeing how this world is really a beautiful garden. Now, we're going to really apply this practically in our own life by saying that, sure, it looks difficult. Sure, it looks challenging. How do we ever think we're going to get from this current reality to the reality of the time of Mashiach? How are we going to get there? It looks impossible. And the key to believing that we can get there is in believing that every descent is for the purpose of ascent. That is the key to being able to get us to our goal. Because you cannot move forward if you're constantly being flung backwards and not understand the purpose of moving backwards. It seems like for every step we take forward, we're taking another step backwards, so we're never moving anywhere. Sometimes I like to say life is like walking up a down escalator. If you're not always walking up, you're automatically going down. And that applies in so many ways. But it's constant work. It's constant effort. And most of that work and effort is mental. It's in our heads. It's what we're thinking about. It's our perspective on the world around us. So we have two ways that we could look at things. We can either say, oh my goodness, I used to be part of a beautiful oak tree. Now I got flung down into the dirt, into the schmutz. This is ridiculous. Or we could say, this is interesting. I was once part of an oak tree. Now I'm sitting here in the dirt. I wonder why this is happening. Let's see. Like what Susan said, I wonder why I was rejected. And by the way, I'm sure all of us have stories about this, but I also have plenty of stories of rejection. I was also rejected to the place that I really wanted to go to study in Israel. And it ended up being incredible. And all my best friends are from the place that I actually went to. And I was also, rejected when dating, and then thought, oh my gosh, this is the end of the world. And then I met the most incredible man on the entire planet. We all have those situations in life where we feel like we're sitting in the dirt and rotting and degrading, and this is just the pits, right? And then we start to grow. So this concept applies to every single neshama, and it also applies to the entire cosmos, to the entire world. So let's apply it in the microcosm first. With your neshama, you go through a cycle, right? You go through a cycle of life. And part of that cycle is what we call a Gilgul, which basically is a life cycle of a particular soul that has to come back into this world multiple times in order to realize its true potential, in order to fulfill what we called its purpose, right? And the soul could say, I don't get it. I already went down there. Now you want to send me down again? What do I have to go down into that schmutz and dirt of a world for? I'm happy up here. Let me stay up here with God's light. I don't want to go down to that messy world. It's ridiculous. Stuck into a body. You know what those bodies do? Bodies go to the bathroom. Bodies have urges. Bodies have desires. I'm a nice soul. It's not for me to be attached to such a ridiculous looking creature. Please leave me alone. Let me stay up here in heaven. It's all good. There's a beautiful song called Come With Me, Little Neshamala. And it's a soul singing. And the angel's talking to the soul and saying, come with me, little Neshamala. Come with me, little soul. It's time for you to go down into the world. And the soul says, no way. I ain't going down there. And the angel says, but you need to. It's your time. This is your purpose. And the soul says, look at what they're doing down there. I'm not going. And the angel shows this soul, but look, there's somebody doing a mitzvah. There's somebody in prayer. There's someone learning Torah. There's someone doing an act of kindness, of charity. And the soul says, okay, fine. I'll go only if I could be like them. So the angel takes this little soul and flings it down into the world, into a body, and it's there and it's accomplishing. And then it comes a time for the soul to have to leave the world. And again, it argues with the angel and saying, wait, I'm not done. I don't want to leave yet. But the whole purpose of the descent of the soul coming down into this world is not just because it's taking a nice vacation here in this world. It's because it has something so much greater to accomplish. Just last night, I witnessed a marriage. Marriage could be seen as a descent. You were free, you were single, you had no responsibilities, you wanted to do your laundry, you did, you didn't want to, you didn't, you wanted to have a clean house, you did, you didn't want to, whatever, you lived your own life, you lived your own schedule, you did anything you wanted to do, you didn't have to worry about another person. Sometimes getting married means tons of more responsibilities, and then the kids come along, and then you have no privacy and freedom, as people today like to call it. It can be seen as a real descent. But for anyone who's been married and gone through that journey together, anyone who's done that knows that the descent is very worthwhile. Now, if only I could figure out a way to convince all of our college students that getting married really is very worthwhile, it would be much happier for them. Until then, you have to figure it out, because most people look at it as, I'm losing out. having a child, I'm losing my independence, I'm losing my freedom. I'm like, this is ridiculous. You're going to end up being all those old people in Costco who want to talk to my kids because they don't have any grandkids. This is ridiculous. Get married, for goodness sake, and have the kids. Don't do this to yourself. But I don't know how to explain it to them. Maybe I have to bring all of you guys over and explain it to them. So having a descent is many times necessary and worthwhile and needed, and you got to shove yourself into that difficult position in order to grow, in order to climb higher. And the neshama needs to know this. True, you don't want to come down into this world. True, it looks like a mess. And to come back again, and to come back again, and to come back again, it looks like terrible. But it's for your benefit. It's so that you can accomplish what you truly need to accomplish in this world. This is true of every soul. And this is true of entire nations. And this is true for every piece of existence in this world. Just like it's true for a seed on a tree, it's true for every living creature on this planet. The descent is for the purpose of ascent. And we can apply this in many practical ways in our life. You get stuck in a terrible traffic jam, you have two options. You can sit there and you can say to yourself, this is ridiculous. Some idiot's driving on the wrong side of the road, gets into an accident, and now I have to suffer. And you can sit there and get upset and get, God forbid, angry and build and build and build. And we all know if you're sitting there for an hour, boy, can you get angry by the end of that. Or you can sit there and you can say, this is interesting. God is causing me to sit in a traffic jam right now. I wonder what the purpose in this is. I wonder why I need to be sitting here right now. And you can pull out your phone, call someone you haven't called in a long time. You can pull out your phone and log on to Chabad.org and learn something. You can get some work done. Whatever. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing here right now, but I am choosing to grow from the situation rather than just be upset. So it's a choice that you're making. Bonnie, go ahead.
So, I mean, maybe it's because of certain personal experiences that I've been through that some of you are aware of. But even further back, my father used to say, metal doesn't bleed. And on the times where we've been stuck in major traffic accidents, like I mean, and it's a pain and I don't enjoy it. Let's be honest. Nobody enjoys sitting there in their day being, but I always say someone's life when it's that bad just changed forever. And we have to feel sorry that this happened to them and thankful that it wasn't our turn for that one other, like you said, you know, everyone has a bag of problems and someone just got a new problem. And I'm always like, I'd rather be waiting in the accident, you know, sitting in there waiting for the accident to clear than being a part of the accident. Because
For sure.
when you're waiting an hour, it's a bad accident and someone's life has changed irrevocably. So if you miss an appointment and have to reschedule, someone else's life has changed much more dramatically.
Definitely.
So I try to keep
But
that
Bonnie, I think
perspective. Unless I have to pee, then I get cranky. So no, I'm kidding.
Bonnie, 100%. But I think that you need to take that a step further because you're basically saying, I'm happy I'm not that one.
No,
What
no,
you
no.
need-
I did. I quantified it. I
Right,
said
you're
I'm
grateful for
like
what you
so hurt. I say I'm so feel so bad for someone's life who just
100%.
changed irrevocably
But-
because I have been that one, unfortunately.
Right.
So yeah.
But here's the thing. It's not just about them. If you're stuck in traffic, you are meant to be stuck in traffic. It's not just that something happened to somebody else and it wasn't you this time. It's that something is happening to you. You are stuck in traffic. And that for you is a descent. So all of these situations in life, if somebody else is going through something, it's also happening to you. When you are in that situation, you need to find the reason for ascent for yourself. It applies to all of us at the same time.
It's
One
like
second,
the
Elisa?
ripple. It's the ripple effect, though. Some people look at it as the ripple effect.
For sure.
I mean, I know
Lisa,
that's
yeah.
not where you're going, but it is a ripple effect. I mean, that cause this one cause causes another cause to happen. It's a ripple effect. cause and effect.
Lisa, jump in. Yeah.
Yeah, well, no, it just came to mind. Sometimes you don't remember things that happen. And then all of a sudden, what Bonnie was talking about and what you just said about it meant to be sparked something in me. Several years ago, I was going to the airport in an Uber. And it was a very nice Uber driver talking to me and whatever. And we get almost to the airport. And I was going down to see my mom at the time or whatever. And I realized that I didn't have my wallet with my ID and everything. Well, I can't get on the plane and I am in a panic. Of course, I always leave extra time to go to the airport. So I did have a lot of time ahead of me. And I was so upset. And I said to the Uber driver, I have to go back. And I called my husband and I said, can you find my wallet? And he said, yes, I'm jumping in the car and have the Uber driver turn around and we'll meet up somewhere off the highway. So I tell the Uber driver, and this guy says to me, I was like in tears. And he said to me, this was meant to be. He said, you don't know that if we had kept going, something could have happened. We were meant to turn around and go back and get your wallet. It's going to be okay. This is the Uber driver telling me this.
That's great.
And we did go back and my husband met us on the highway and I got my driver's license and my wallet and we went on to the airport. But I always thought about, first of all, that guy really calmed me down, that he had that wisdom to say that. And we don't know it was meant to be. We don't know what would have happened had we continued along that path without having to turn around. So that made me think of that.
Definitely. Yeah, go ahead, Eileen. You're still muted. You're still muted.
I hear you.
Eileen, you're muted.
We can't hear you.
She's actually not muted. Now she's muted. Yeah, she's not muted. Her sound isn't
We didn't
working.
hear you, though.
Eileen, try turning your volume up and
Well, you might have
see,
to-
or, no, the other Eileen.
I know.
Oh,
No, it's not working.
You might have to get off and get back on again.
Okay, I'll continue. And Eileen, we can hear you. So see what's going on with your microphone. And then hopefully you'll be able to tell us again. Or you can type it into the chat box and I'll read it. Okay,
Me and
so let me tell you another two parts to this idea. The Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, who founded the Chabad mode of thinking about things, Chabad philosophy. In his book Tanya, he quotes a line from Torah, quotes a line from Moshe, from Moses, and he says, Ki karov elecha hadavar ma'od beficha uvilvavcha la'asoto, which basically means ki karov, it's very close to you. This thing, it's within the reach of every single person in your mouth, in your speech, and in your heart to do it. And he bases his entire spiritual self-help guide, which is the Book of Tanya, on this line from Moshe. And the commentaries come to Moses and they say, Moses, you're telling us to do the entire Torah. You're telling us to have this great faith in Hashem. And now you're coming and telling us, oh, it's really easy. It's really close to you. No worries. You can do this. It might be easy for you, Moses. For the rest of us, this is a real struggle. Okay? So sure, this is a great idea to meditate and think about. Every time there's a descent, it's for the purpose of an ascent. That's great if you're Moses. That's great if you've got this real deep connection to God. If you're the rest of us, this is not easy. How are we actually supposed to do this? It's like, oh, thank you very much, Moses, for telling us it's easy, you know? It's like a little kid trying to build a whole massive Lego set, and some engineer comes along and they're like, yeah, that's easy. It's like, oh, thank you very much. For you, it's easy. I'm a kid trying to figure out this Lego set. So all of us are struggling with this idea. We all have these downs in life. And then Moses comes along and he's like, it's okay. It's really close to you. You got this. You can do this. What is going on? What is Moses trying to tell us here? So Rabbi Shneur Zalman spends the entire book of Tanya explaining to us how it really is possible for all of us to come close to what God actually wants and to actually doing the things that Hashem wants in this world. And the secret really is, our question really is our answer. Just the knowledge that every time you fall, it's for the purpose of climbing higher, that gives you strength. Just that knowledge can pull you out of your rut. Meaning, if we just constantly kept falling and we didn't know why this was happening, then we would literally be miserable. Then it would be impossible for us to do Torah, to continue being good people in this world. I'm such a good person, and every time I try to do something good, I get slapped in the face for it. Right? How many of you can relate to that? You do something good, you help people out, nobody says thank you, nobody's grateful. Not just that, they slap you in the face, like, we didn't need you anyways. How many of you can relate to that? Because I can. And I think that just knowing that when you struggle and you work and you do for others and then you feel like nothing, you feel like they don't appreciate me, it was hard for me, they don't see the value in this. I'm talking to myself right now. That is the beginning of your ascent. But you have to know that. You have to know that the reason why you're in the pits right now, the reason why you feel like you're at rock bottom is because now you're beginning to climb. I had a personal experience. Every year we do, a big fundraising campaign this time of year. And last year, my husband is spending hours on the phone helping his friends or other, Chabad houses with their campaigns. You have to get from this person, you have to get from that person, you have to say this and you have to do that. And he's spending hours and hours and hours helping other people. And meanwhile, our big matching donors were not coming through. And, one was fetching about this and one couldn't do this and one said no and one wasn't answering the phone. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my goodness, this is terrible. We're working so hard. My husband's working so hard to help other people. And I wanted to tell him, get off the phone, stop helping other people. We need to do our own campaign. And it wasn't happening. At the end of the day, not only did all of our matchers come through, but they came through even more than we thought they would come through. And we had one of the best campaigns we ever had. And my husband said, you know why? It's because I was helping all those other people. That's guaranteed the reason why God helped us out over here. And meanwhile, I'm thinking, no one's grateful. No one appreciates it. What are you wasting all your time helping these people? They're not even saying thank you, right? How many of you guys feel like that sometimes, especially when you're diapering a child or you're raising a teenager? Are they grateful? Please, grateful? They think this is part of life. Meanwhile, it's in order for you to be able to grow so that one day you can be a bubby, or so that one day, you have people in your life. We never know, but there's always the reason for ascent. And I just want to give you one more secret that Kabbalah, that Torah tells us. There are 3 blessings that a person can be given in life. Bane, Chaye, Mizane, which translate as children, health, and wealth. Those are the 3 blessings that we're always trying to give each other. You should be blessed with children, you should be blessed with health, you should be blessed with wealth, and generally everything else, falls into line when people have those 3 things. Obviously, stress is a big one. You should be happy, but hopefully happiness comes together. Now, here's the deal. And this is very fascinating. It is very rare for a Jewish person to be allowed all 3. Extremely rare. Most Jewish people do not get all three. It's common for someone to have two or sometimes just one. So each person in their life sees they're blessed with one or the other, but not necessarily all three, which is why many times people would come to a tzaddik, come to a righteous person and say, give me a blessing. And the tzaddik, the holy person, would say, I can't give you a blessing. Because a tzaddik can't change what God wants to do. A tzaddik can merely move your channel of blessing from one of the channels to the other channel. There are many times when somebody, let's say didn't have children and went to a holy person for a blessing for children and suddenly lost all their wealth. A very, very wealthy person suddenly loses all their wealth and then they have children. So many times, one thing in life has to get shifted in order for the channels of the other blessings to be opened. And this can be something very strange for us to wrap our minds around. I mean, isn't God capable of everything? Why can't we just have it all? But for some reason unknown to us, this is the way God sets the world up. That you can't have everything. You can't have always children and health and wealth. Okay, you survive. You have what you need, but not necessarily everything. In the last 300 years, the ordinary Jewish person who learns Hasidus, who learns Hasidic philosophy, has become privy to this incredible secret. And it's worthwhile for all of us to know, because then we can start to appreciate some of the challenges that we have in life. Someone goes bankrupt. You can look at that as something terrible. Their entire life was shattered. And then suddenly a new channel of blessing opens up in their life. Okay? Or sometimes a person just needs to give tons and tons of charity instead of having to lose it. Just give, so that the other channels of blessing can be opened up in their life. But it just allows us a little peek into some of the crazy things that seem to be going on in this world, that sometimes one channel of blessing needs to be shut, needs to be closed off in order for the other channels to freely flow. And then maybe those channels will open up again, but we don't necessarily know. But this gives us a new perspective on descent for the purpose of ascent. Sometimes a person needs to fall in order to be able to climb, in order to be able to rise in another area. Just knowing this gives us the power, gives us the energy to be able to get through whatever we're trying to get through. We don't know why we had to fall. We can apply it in our own life because we know that if we want to run, we have to sprint back in order to go forwards. So we can feel it. It makes sense to us logically. But when we're in that situation, the question is, are we going to remember that? Are we going to remember that the reason for our descent is in order for us to grow in some other way, in order for us to rise from the fall even higher than we ever rose before? When God created the entire universe, God filled all space and all time. And then God said, I want there to be a place where people could have their individuality, where people could have freedom of choice. And so God did what the Kabbalah calls siluk. God removed the feeling of God's presence to create an empty space, to create a vacuum where the fact that there is a God was not felt. And within that vacuum, God created our universe. And in this universe, God puts a straw, like into a martini glass. God puts this long straw into this world. And through it, miracles and blessings and light, God's light, begin to come back into this world. And we look at God and we're like, this is really strange. You removed yourself in order for us to bring you back here into this world. What was the purpose in that? If you want us to feel connected to you, so make a world where we can all feel connected to you. Just leave it as it is. And if you don't want us to, then just leave yourself out of the picture. What's the purpose of leaving in order to slowly come back? There is a halacha, there's a Jewish law that if you tear down a synagogue, you tear down a holy place, the only reason why you're allowed to do that is in order to build it bigger and better. You cannot tear it down in order to build it exactly as it was before. It has to be built bigger and better. The same thing for Hashem. When God removes his presence from this world, when God removes his presence from this world, it's only in order that God's presence can come back, but not the same as it was before. It has to be greater. It has to be a greater godly revelation than it ever was before. So when we look at this world and we see a place that has a void, boy, is this a dark situation. Boy, is this terrible. Why would God allow this to happen? The only answer can be, in order for there to be a greater light here than there was before. And so I know one thing. If we get through COVID and the world goes back to the exact same as it was before, we destroyed a synagogue and we built it back exactly the same as it was. We wasted a descent. We wasted an opportunity for growth. Every single one of us has to ask ourselves, how am I using this descent? How am I using this fall, this difficult challenge in my life to grow greater and bigger and bolder than I ever was before? And it's not just the entire world. The entire world has to shift. The entire world has to change. But as Jewish people, we start at home. We each have to ask ourselves, where am I growing? Where am I rising from this COVID fall? And if we don't rise, it was a waste of a pandemic. There
Shifra,
has to be, yeah,
could I add one thing?
of course.
Okay, just wanted to add one point in addition to what Shifra was saying. So the idea of limitation, the Rebbe spoke a lot about the limitations of exile applying to previous times, and being that the time that we're in, and we can see so clearly that the times that we are in are so close to the coming of Mashiach, we are not limited by some of these ideas that did take place hundreds of years ago, and it was a reality. But as times change and as the world changes, we are no longer limited by this idea. Our blessings aren't limited. We ourselves aren't limited. So there is also that concept that as we come closer to the coming of Mashiach, our blessings are also expanding. So I just wanted to add that.
That's great. Thank you, Chani. I really appreciate that. So basically what you're saying is that now we don't have to feel like we can only get blessings in one area.
Or in two areas. Yes, the Rebbe spoke about the fact that now we could have blessings in all three. So that was the old exile. We are rapidly transforming and coming towards a greater reality, as we can see. And so coming closer to the times of Mashiach, we're not limited by some of the things in exile that limited us in the past.
Amazing. Amazing. A person still has to know that if they fall, it's not for nothing.
Right.
There's always a
the concept of Yerida L'tzarech Aliyah, that every descent is for an ascent, of course, is great. And the idea of using COVID as an opportunity for growth, I'm totally there. I agree. It's really
amazing.
a way to
amazing. But a person should never say, I think really what Khani's bringing out is so important. A person should never say, okay, I lost out in this so that I'll gain something. You don't have to just be satisfied. Oh, whatever, I lost out, and that's just the way it's going to be. No, a Jewish person should demand to have all. I think especially because we are right there at the end, where we are the ones who are going to bring us all to the time of Mashiach. We can't do it if we're lacking. If we're lacking the funds, if we're lacking the emotional health or the mental health, if we're lacking the future generations to be able to do it, we won't be able to get there. So we basically have the right to demand from Hashem, sorry, but we need everything because we need to get there. And I really also, we all know that for a Jewish person and for all of us, the physical things that we have are not merely physical. They're there in order for us to accomplish our purpose. So we have to tell God, I don't want money for myself. I want it so that I can make the world a better place. I don't want children for myself. I want children so that